Hello and welcome back to another day in the arena. It's me, it's CGB, and today in the arena we're going to complete our mastery tree and work on our first of the dual color decks. Well, actually second. We worked on Cult of Rakdos earlier and played some games with it, but the first since changing our format. This will be another tuning video, and today's tuning subject will be the green-black Golgari deck. So, let's go into the account mastery tree and complete it. We have 3 more orbs and 3 more places. And this will account for all of the cards we can get in our free-to-play account completely for free, outside of ICRs, rewards, promo codes, and other things like that. So that's going to be fun. We're going to go through and tune each of these decks in a separate video. For now, I'm going to take care of the crafting portion just as kind of a check mark. Let's mark this off of the to-do list. Nice big accomplishment here. About 2 weeks is where I'm at in my free-to-play grind to get here. Some people can definitely do it faster. I didn't play every single day and I didn't complete every single quest offered to me, so there you go. Now if we come back here, it still has like a lit up thing, and we already did all these rewards, so I guess what we're talking about is still going here. Our Encore Set Mastery, where we've got like up to 21 awaiting us. We have many more levels to go, earning of packs. Basically, it's our reward packs for the week is what this is for. And then all these other cosmetics, you can purchase the Mastery Pass if you want to get those as you're playing through as well. I'm not in a rush to do that, besides free to play. So, as you can see, the account doesn't have the gems. Anyway, I don't know why this is still lit up. Maybe it will always be lit up. Maybe there's nothing to be done about that. Let's get into the decks. Golgari Swarm is the deck we're going to examine. I did a poll on my main Covert Go Blue account, which had over 500 votes, and Golgari Swarm won. It was very close. You guys are interested in a lot of these different decks, which is a good sign. So let's take a look at our deck. Let's see. Assassin's Trophy is a nice rare, so is Fine Finality. We have Glowspore Shamans, which can fill the graveyard. Midnight Reaper is a nice rare. Plague Crafter. It's a value green-black style deck, and it looks like it's trying to somehow make good of creatures in the graveyard. Maybe use some of these undergrowth mechanics. And we've got Casualties of War and a Zoni. Yeah, there are a good amount of rares. It's nice that there are more rares in here than I think there used to be. And then Lotleth Giant is our killer, with Molder Hulk hanging out. So yeah, it's I play a deck like this on my paid account, the other account, the main Covert Go Blue account, and the Molder Hulks are a big part of it, so that might be something that we have to craft in the future. As I look around, the cards that I definitely think are underpowered that I'm going to cut from the deck right away, I'm going to remove the cards that don't really contribute to the theme or just don't do enough for me, and Gift of Strength has to be one of those. There's a lot of different ways to use a pump spell. I don't get why Gift of Strength is in the deck. Then another thing that I'm looking for is a Swarm Guild Mage. Now once we pull out the cards that I don't plan to use, we'll try to replace them with better or stronger cards to fill out our strategy. You may not have all the cards that I have, but what I want you to pay attention to mostly is the process. The process can help you create the best deck possible with your pile. This is not a very good card. I know a lot of people like gaining life. These Guild Mages are not very strong, so I'm going to remove that from the deck. Leyline Prowler's 2/3 with Death Touch and Lifelink is good. District Guide gets you a land, which is good. Plague Crafter, making the opponent sacrifice creatures, is good. Death Sprout can kill an opposing creature and get you a land. That's pretty good value as well if we're doing expensive things. Golgari Fine Broker gets you back cards. Then we have Rhizome Lurker. This enters the battlefield with a counter on it equal the number of creature cards in your graveyard. This could be very large, and it could be a good card against decks that can't deal with it, but against anything with removal, this is a very weak card. I'm not sure if I want it. I'm going to let it hang out for a minute and decide. Undercity Uprising, creatures you control gain Death Touch, then a creature fights target creature you don't control. I think this is a very bad card. I don't even play it in the limited back when I did that, so I'm cutting this one. I like the Crawl Forgers to gain life. Mono red is very strong, and while I don't usually like life gain, when you staple it to a 4/4 body in a deck filled with graveyard synergy, it can be good. Underrealm Lich is a mythic rare that I can try out. It's not particularly awesome, but it can hang out here. If we're going to use Lotleth Giants to kill our opponents, we need a critical mass of creatures in our deck. Right now there's 23. We're going to keep an eye out and see if that can be better. But a lot of time what I'm going to do is look at some of these cards like Bone Splinters, Disfigure, Duress. These are all very good cards that I could put in the deck, but if they're not creatures, I may not want to run them. There isn't a lot of synergy between Status Statue. Honestly, most of the time this is a 4-mana removal spell. The ability to give a creature Death Touch won't help us trade too often, not in this type of deck. So I'm going to cut Status Statue from the deck as well. I skipped over it at first. I think I just didn't see it there. Maybe. And so what we want to do is fill up our graveyard and then use effects that make that a good thing. For removal, Casualties of War is a very strong kind of over-the-top card that we can try. We have 2 Death Sprouts, which are like slower murders that ramp us as well. Does it fetch any land or a basic land? It's a basic land. It might even be too difficult to cast. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see if Death Sprout makes the cut, especially when we have options like Murder. So Knight of the Ebon Legion is a creature that we could put in here. It's rare, it's strong, it individually has power and merit, so I'm going to add it for the time being. Orzhov Enforcer is a good one to sacrifice with. It has Death Touch, so it can block and trade off pretty well. I might use you. Priest of the Forgotten Gods is a rare from the Orzhov deck, and we certainly have some creatures here that we might be willing to sacrifice to get the very powerful effect of making the opponent sacrifice a creature, lose 2 life, and draw a card. So I think Priest of the Forgotten Gods is a good inclusion. None of these really speak to me. There are a lot of Plague Crafters, and we might even want to run more Plague Crafters. It's removal that is a creature. It means we don't have to run other removal cards. The problem with Plague Crafter, of course, is that we can't choose what we hit. The opponent will sacrifice their worst creature no matter what we do. It's interesting. I'm going to keep in mind that I have the full 4 Plague Crafters. I may add some more back in. Blood for Bones is a card I really do want to add because it can keep our best creatures and our large creatures from the graveyard coming back over and over. I'm surprised it's not already in the deck, and I think that adding it is just a really good move. Spawn of Mayhem, maybe. Cavalier Knight definitely slots into this deck, and so does Doom Whisperer, as 2 large mythic threats that I've been lucky enough to open. They're going to fit right in. I even have 2 Doom Whisperers here? Wow, I didn't notice when I got another one. It must have been in one of the decks. So Cavalier of Night, Doom Whisperer can fill the graveyard by surveilling, which goes well with the Forgers, and Cavalier of Night can come back and sacrifice and kill things, so a lot of value. I'm a big fan of Bolas's Citadel. I really am. I don't know if this is the right deck for it, though. Everything that's not a creature is taking away from potential awesome Undergrowth mechanic stuff. Pelt Collector is a card we could run, and it might actually get built up reasonably well with cards like Kroll Harpooner and Glowspore Shaman in the deck. But the curve doesn't quite follow. A turn 1 Pelt Collector into a turn 2 Glowspore Shaman doesn't follow into a District Guide or a Leyline Prowler well at all. We could also play Druid of the Cowl or Barkhide Troll, but none of those really synergize with this strategy of getting things in the graveyard either. Incubation Druid, however, as a mana dork is pretty strong, and we got 3 Uncommon Paradise Druids, so those can help ramp our mana. That is tempting, as mana ramp is good when you have a bunch of larger cards in your deck. And they tend to die. They're generally stronger than cards like Orzhov Enforcer or Knight of the Ebon Legion. Still looking around. It's nice to have so many options all of a sudden. Cavalier Thorns fills our graveyard, is a mythic rare. Yeah, that can go in the deck. That is basically a perfect hit. Voracious Hydra is a creature that we can't really bring back with Blood for Bones, but we can put it into our hand with Blood for Bones. And it can fight another creature when it enters the battlefield. It gives us something to do with late mana, so I'll keep you. And let's see if we have any other green-black cards lurking that aren't in the deck but are good. Jungle Hollow enters the battlefield and gains a life. This is an upgrade to the Guild Gate, and I don't think I want to replace all of my Guild Gates. How many lands? 25? We can go 1 lower, so I'm going to cut one of my Guild Gates, so I have 8 dual lands, 8 swamps, 8 forest. I think that's probably a good way to be. It's made me happy so far. And then none of these other ones really do it. We can look at artifacts just to be sure. It is possible we want to reanimate a Meteor Golem. Without a Ravenous Chupacabra in the deck, this might not be the worst card to have in the graveyard to bring back. We do run the risk of having too many expensive cards. I love Casualties of War, but it's not a creature. This is definitely a deck about getting creatures. So Death Sprout's also going to take the bench. The Lurcher can go because we got enough big, powerful mythics. I may have just been too lucky to open all of those. Maybe some people can't replicate that experience. Apologies. I'm going to pull out the Enforcers, and I'm going to pull out the Knight of the Ebon Legion. I don't think it quite plays with the rest of what's going on here. I'm also looking at this like, do I really have that many creatures to sacrifice to Priest of the Forgotten Gods? What I really want to do is play something that either generates mana, something like that, to ramp into the large creatures, or I throw them in the graveyard using the Glowspore Shaman. So if I'm not sacrificing bodies for that, if I need the bodies out here for Blood for Bones, the Priest doesn't make sense. Knight of the Ebon Legion is another one that probably doesn't make sense anymore. We're really leaning hard on Glowspore Shaman to put something into the graveyard, and if we can't do that, we need to cast these on our own. Fortunately, not everything is too expensive. And fortunately, we also have ramp in the form of the Paradise Druids and the Incubation Druids to get there. One more look, and yeah, I've decided I'm going to cut the Knight of the Ebon Legion. We're going to play this like a ramp deck that can be a Reanimator deck. Gonna sleeve up. You can keep running the Yard, that's fine. Underrealm Lich doesn't get much play in many types of decks. And now I think we're ready to play some games. The hand is perfectly fine. It does have District Guide into a Blood for Bones. We won't have anything in the graveyard yet, so we're going to have to draw that, or the Plaguecrafter itself will have to go, and instead of getting something huge, we'll use it for value. But I like the hand. Let's hope our opponent isn't too aggressive. If they come out with a 1-drop, obviously Plaguecrafter is a lot weaker. Find Finality, the first part of getting 2 creature cards back is what I think of the most when I look at this deck, but Finality is good too. Put 2 counters on a creature you control, then all creatures get -4/-4 until end of turn. A big board wipe, a sweeper, an area of effect play can make a big difference in the game. Our opponent will open on a Benthic Biomancer, and immediately when I see Merfolk, I think, oh no. Our Plaguecrafter will be bad, and we will need Finality. So we could play a 0/0 Hydra or a Find with no targets. Neither of those options is what I call good. So let's see what the opponent has for turn 2 with their Benthic Biomancer, a rare Merfolk that for 2 mana adapts 1, puts a counter on the Biomancer, and then they draw and discard a card. It is a Silvergill Adept. Draws a card. Biomancer gets busy. So we're going to want to line up our Hydra to kill one of their lords, the creatures that make other Merfolk bigger and better. Whether or not to play a Plaguecrafter here and get something in the graveyard right away, or play the District Guide, it's kind of a tough call. The District Guide can block any of these things though, and we want another land. If our opponent plays the Lord, the 2/2 Merfolk who pumps all other Merfolk, next turn with a land from the District Guide, we could play the Hydra and kill it. So let's go for the District Guide and go get ourselves a swamp. We could get a Guildgate, but I want my land to enter the battlefield untapped. Interland Harbor. Our opponent may have crafted up their Merfolk deck to be stronger, or they just may have been playing it for a long time. There is Merfolk Mistbinder, that is the card I was talking about. I could block the Silvergill Adept, and that prevents the most damage, or I could block the Biomancer, which might be value in the future when the opponent pumps some mana into it. And I think the answer is the Biomancer. I think I need to slow down, not just for damage, but for my opponent's ability to interact. The Cavalier of Knight's a really good draw. This may come up huge in this matchup. For this turn, let's play the Hydra. The Hydra can come into the battlefield and fight target creature I don't control. I want to fight the Mistbinder and kill that thing. And now my 2/3 Hydra is ready to spar with the Silvergill Adept. Let's see if our opponent came ready, if they have another way. Another way to pump up the merfolks. It's another Mistbinder. Ooh. Ooh. And here they come. So this is tough. If I block here, these can trade. But then what am I doing next turn? If I keep this alive, I can Blood for Bones to get back the District Guide and return this to my hand and make my land drop for certain with a Cavalier of Night ready to come down the following turn. But the problem with that is I'm taking too much damage. So I think I have to make the block. Because the following turn, I'll only have a District Guide to block with. Now that's an okay draw. We only need one more land to cast Finality. So the plan is going to be to play the Glowspore Shaman. And if we can put an untapped land on top of our deck, especially a swamp, that's perfect, then we're also ready to play Cavalier of Night in the future. So we can play the Plaguecrafter to slow our opponent down, or we can just wait knowing that we can Finality next turn. And I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. The Plaguecrafter can clean something up after the Finality. We also got the Meteor Golem into the graveyard. Blood for Bones can bring it back to kill any target, and at the same time, the Voracious Hydra can come back to our hand to kill something afterwards. Value, value, value. Very green-black. Merfolk Trickster taps our Glowspore Shaman, and the opponent swings in. Since our Glowspore Shaman is going to die anyway, let's attack with it. If the opponent chooses not to block, it's an additional 3 damage. And here we go, Finality. And we can choose to put counters on the Shaman. It actually doesn't matter. I'll do it for the laugh, but obviously it dies anyway because all creatures get -4, -4. And there go all your little fish. All your fish have died. Our opponent has another Biomancer. Let's see what they do with it. Pass the turn. So now the big problem I have is I need a creature to stick on the battlefield for my Blood for Bones to work. I can go ahead and Plaguecraft away this Biomancer. I may as well. I could also just play the 4/5 without sacrificing another creature. That's pretty darn strong too because of the lifelink, and being at 7 life, that's a big play. Let's do it. Let's just get the 4/5 onto the battlefield. If it dies for some reason, which Merfolk don't kill things that well, but if it dies, we can return a District Guide, a Glowspore Shaman, a Paradise Druid from the battlefield. From the graveyard to the battlefield. From our graveyard to the battlefield. The opponent might be thinking about adapting this Biomancer just to draw a card, discard a card. They probably need it. They'll need a pretty good card to tango with Cavalier of Night, and its Quench is a counterspell that they didn't have available because they tapped all their blue mana. Or no, they must have just drawn it with the blue mana, because they couldn't have adapted without it, and they should have quenched this. So the card they drew must have been the Quench, which means the card in their hand is probably medium if they were willing to try to loot it away anyway. This is a good spot. 5 mana for the Silvergill Adept means the card in the hand is not a Merfolk. Must be a land. And here's an island. And here's an Incubation Druid. We can sacrifice that to use the Blood for Bones if we wish. This is going to be an interesting turn. Let's start with attacking with the Cavalier of Night. Get that lifelink damage. Now I'll play an Incubation Druid. And I'll play a Blood for Bones. I will sacrifice you. I could sacrifice the Cavalier, but I very much like the life that I'm gaining. So I'm happy to keep it around. And we'll return the Meteor Golem to the battlefield. We'll return the Hydra to the hand, so these can all kill things. We'll blow up your Biomancer. Just keeping the opponent's board in check. Plaguecrafter can sacrifice the Meteor Golem so it's in the graveyard to get back with another Blood for Bones if we find it. Voracious Hydra can be a huge monster. And the Merfolk player is on the back foot now, and they never were able to recover from that epic finality. Oh, what you give me? What you get? Guild Summit. there may be a Gates deck in our future. It's a pretty budget-friendly way to play a big control rampy strategy, which are fun. So maybe someday we'll use that card. Harpooner, Reaper, Cavalier of Night. This looks very excellent. Happy to play this hand. Temple of Mystery will open up the opponent's plays. They get to scry. Top or bottom? Top or bottom? Nothing like turn 1 scry tank. And bottom it is. Jungle Hollow, gain life. Say go. Now please, play a flyer. I would love to kill a flyer. Another temple. Doing that scry thing. Bottom again. Okay. Opponent not satisfied so far. I'm going to play out the Harpooner even without something to fight. I think that's saving it for a flyer. We just don't know what the opponent's doing yet, and we can always bring it back from the graveyard later in the game. We want that fighting ability. There are so many lands going here, I don't even think I need to play the District Guide. I think the Reaper is on deck for next turn. And here is the Risen Reef. One of the more annoying cards that has come out of the new set, but it's also very fun. It fits that mold perfectly of being a card that's annoying to play against and super fun to play yourself. So get used to seeing it everywhere. Will probably be an early Simic craft for us. And what's your next move? Alright, the opponent has decided a Hydroid Krasis for 2. So now there's a 2/2 out there. And we draw a Voracious Hydra. Ooh. What do you think? Do we want to keep a Midnight Reaper around? It can draw so many cards. I think I do. That means I should attack with the Harpooner and not with the Reaper. The Reaper would want to trade with the Krasis, which would draw us an extra card. But I'm going to draw an extra card next turn anyway, and I'd love to keep the Reaper around. The Hydra could fight away the Krasis so it could attack for more damage. Or it could fight away the Risen Reef to prevent future value. I actually think that fighting the Krasis and going for maximum damage is where I want to be. Whatever my opponent is doing, it's probably too powerful for me to beat in a long game. We're a very fair deck. Simic is the unfair color combination in the format. So getting more damage in now and getting bigger attacks as quickly as we can put them under pressure. And here's the Risen Reef chump blocking, which that sends a message right there. That the opponent has a big endgame they're trying to work to, and we're trying to beat right through it. Let's see if the opponent is ready with a Nissa. And there she is. After some debate, the opponent has chosen to shake the world. It looks like we are planning on animating the only forest. Forests tap for double mana thanks to Nissa, who shakes the world. But that's the only forest the opponent has, and they're going to use it to play a Paradise Druid. So we can attack with these and get the Nissa to 1. We could play the Cavalier of Night, sacrifice a creature to kill the forest, but not the Paradise Druid. It has hexproof, which is frustrating, without question. The opponent will almost certainly block the Midnight Reaper, so that will go to the graveyard. It's too bad I don't have a way through the Paradise Druid to get the Nissa dead, but let's at least give it a shot. Also, killing the opponent's only forest and making them chump block with the Paradise Druid, that can cripple their mana for next turn, potentially. Which would normally be totally stacked thanks to Nissa. The opponent's taken their pick. If I were them, I'd be blocking the Midnight Reaper, and it wouldn't be close. So there you go. Hopefully the Cavalier Knight can bring the Midnight Reaper back when all is said and done. The opponent chooses to let Nissa die. That implies that there's another Nissa coming. And that gives us even more reason to destroy the forest before it can produce double mana. Let's sacrifice our Hydra, because if we can get it back into our hand from the graveyard with a Blood for Bones, something like that, we can play it for a much higher value. So Cavalier Knight will destroy the forest, and we draw a card from the Midnight Reaper for sacrificing the Hydra. Unfortunately for us, the Flood is definitely on. That's our 7th land drawn, and between District Guide and Glowspore Shaman, we didn't need more land. the opponent says go. I don't see any reason to play another creature before attacking this time. I could play the District Guide to thin my deck, but if I draw something expensive with the Midnight Reaper, I'm going to want to be able to play it. So let's get him. It's a 10-point attack coming at you. Wow, the opponent takes it all. They must have something big planned for this mana. Let's play out some value cards. Here is the District Guide to go get another land out of our deck. We may as well grab a forest. A Lotleth Giant gets shuffled. Oops. Let's play out the Glowspore Shaman. We don't need to put a land on top of our deck though. And of course we put 3 solid critters in the grave. Jungle Hollow can gain us a life since we don't have a use for the mana this turn. Cameo. Fountain save you.
Ask about any lunar anomalies you have experienced. Let me aid your
So
research.
+1, mill the top 4, put them into the graveyard, take them off the library into the graveyard, that's milling. Name a card if it's among the 4 before you see them. You get to put it in your hand. So we're waiting for our opponent to name a card. It will show up right here when they do. Hydroid Krasis, and the 4 cards who go to the graveyard are not Hydroid Krasis. And now it's my turn. I'm not going to complicate this too much. Everybody is attacking the face. That should be lethal, and that's the end of the game. Well, we have the Plague Crafter, the Cav, and a Find. We need to draw a few more creatures, but our deck is mostly creatures, so I think we can try this out. The fact that I'm on the play with a Plague Crafter and with my very powerful Mythic Rare and a pretty good catch-up rare makes me want to keep it. But seeing the Lotleth Giant makes me sad, as we do not have an active graveyard ready for you. Here's a Merfolk Branchwalker, a card I'd certainly put into my deck if we had those. That said, they are rotating in the near future, being from Ixalan. You may as well Plague Craft them away. It will be the creature that will most likely get sacrificed in the future if the opponent plays more creatures, so we may as well get this done. Daylight Ranger, opponent with a mono-green look so far, and the Explorer package, keeping the Hydra on top. So, Jungle Hollow, gain a life, pass it back to you. We could use Find to get back the Plague Crafter, but we may as well wait till we have more creatures. And Nullhide Ferox is a big, beefy creature, 6/6. And it has hexproof, so we can't target it with something like a Cavalier of Night at this time. Another Doom Whisperer, though, that can go head-to-head with the Ferox. So let's see how our opponent wants to play it now that the Doom Whisperer is on the battlefield. Now, we can pay 2 life to Surveil 2. Our opponent plays Galta. That's pretty big. And Ferox is getting busy. Jadelight might get busy. Alright, so let's block here. And what do we need to draw? With the Galta on the way, we're probably taking 12. I need a way to kill it. And the opponent's saying your go because I'm thinking, but I don't mind. They're frustrated by that. They'll have to get over it. What about a Blood for Bones? You can't pay too much life because there is a Galta out there. Our opponent was such a good draw that it's going to be really hard to recover with, so I'm trying to think of all the cards in my deck and how to interact. I think there's an Assassin's Trophy, right? So if we do that, if we go find the Assassin's Trophy, I think we still have a chance. Molder Hulk. I'm not going to have enough creatures in the graveyard to make Molder Hulk very good. So here we are, surveilling like crazy to try to find exactly the right card. But that's what you have to do sometimes. There's another giant, but that is not solid. Down to 9. If the card isn't like in the top side of our deck where we can find it and cast it, then we're going to lose the game anyway. Not only that, we need to find it and then still have something on top of the deck to deal with the Jadelight Ranger. District Guide would have been nice for that job. But I still have to get deep enough to hit the trophy. Midnight Reaper won't really do it. Yeah. So this is it. We're down to one more Surveil. I have to hit exactly Assassin's Trophy, and I need something to block the Jade Light Ranger that I can cast, but even then I don't have enough mana. So that'll do. Too bad. Just wasn't a way to really answer this opening from the opponent. So we can leave. Bummer, but what can you do? At least we thought of a way to try to get there. Even if I didn't get there, I can show you that at least we had sort of a path if we had found the Assassin's Trophy before dropping below 5 life, because they had a Hydra in hand. Below 7 life, that's what we needed to do. Because they had a Hydra, they could also play that turn. We got a ramp creature, some district guides, a giant. Alright, we'll see if this opponent is a little less rude than the last one. We'll try not to assume that because one person is mean that somebody else will be. More Simic, huh? Everybody loving Simic today. They're gonna wait on that growth spiral, just you wait and see. But let's get a Paradise Druid down. Oh, I see, it's that Simic. I hate the Simic deck so much. It's a very annoying version of the deck, but it's gonna be okay. We'll figure out a way to compete. They usually run a lot of counter spells. Let's go for a Glowspore Shaman. Play this land first. The opponent will probably counter this because that's what this deck does. They try to counter absolutely everything they see. And then we'll also play this Glowspore Shaman. So do I need more land with District Guide in my hand? I don't think so. I think the District Guides are going to do a fine job for me. Although having a 5th land next turn could matter. We won't be able to double spell if the opponent counters the District Guide, the very first one. So yeah, I guess that drawing this is fine. It's another competitive deck. We just kind of have to get used to that. Being free to play doesn't get, and being in regular unranked play, neither of those get you a pass from getting your ass handed to you. Sorry, I don't usually say things like that, but there you go. It's true. It's just the truth. I'll go for the District Guide first. Well, they know about this. They know about this one. Let's see if they counter the guide. They usually try to counter absolutely everything they see, and what we really want to do is resolve the Harpooner to kill the Sailor. And there is a Sabotage. The opponent's still looking at their top card. Puts an island into the graveyard. Here's Harpooner. Kill that Sailor. We also now have 2 blockers for the Cutthroat, which makes it pretty hard for the Cutthroat to get through. Unless, of course, they have an Unsummon. Yep, no attacks, so they don't like their spot. They might still have more counterspells. Let's test it with another District Guide. Okay, another Cutthroat. Fine. And something else, maybe? Okay, that resolved. We'll get the Guildgate. I can put that in play tapped this turn. It gets another tap land out of our deck, so that maybe draw in the future is an untapped land if we need one. And we'll save the Hydra. But when I do cast the Hydra, I'm probably going to try to make it a giant. And our opponent chooses a Trickster. Double up your Cutthroat triggers, tap down something. Harpooner. So the opponent has a decent attack with the 7/6. Okay. It's kind of weird. I'll block that. That doesn't scare me. So let's go for a Hydra. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Might get countered, but everything does. We have to wait for the opponent to run out of counter spells to play our cool things. Just the way it goes. That's pretty brutal. Syncopate. Alright, no attacks. The opponent now has a cutthroat large enough to attack through me. A shock, which tells me their last card is Frilled Mystic or Nightpack Ambusher, either of which are better than our hand. So we're going to lose to that. If it's Frilled Mystic's a lot worse than Ambusher here, though. I guess we'll go for you. Please don't be Frilled Mystic. Okay, it is Ambusher. Interesting. It's interesting because I'm about to kill something, and you gave me the option of killing this. Tells me you might want me to kill it. I do want to sacrifice a creature, I'm just deciding which one. Let's get rid of the Shaman. And let's take out the Cutthroat. The Shaman, the Cruel Harpooner has reach, which could still be relevant if our opponent draws a flyer. Now the opponent's going to get a 3/3 Wolf every turn for the rest of the game. So we're going to be relying on some size to carry us. Opponent attacks. I'll put a block on that. You want to trade? This being in the graveyard means that the giant drains for more, and I get another card back. I may as well... actually, let's fill the graveyard more with a Shaman. I wonder if the opponent forgot about that value I get from the Cav dying. Seems like a pretty weird trade to try to make. And I do not want to draw another land. Let's decline that. Ooh. Yeah, let's keep slow rolling the giant. If we can resolve the Doom Whisperer, it's really good. Did the opponent draw another counter? They drew the best counter in their deck. Yeah. These decks. I don't think it gets more annoying, but just when you thought it couldn't get more annoying, this happens. Yep. Keep trading off. Try to set our giant up to be worth more and more and more. And maybe if the opponent runs out of counters. Hiya. How you doing? Okay. Well, that got him. Now we just need a Blood for Bones to do it again. Merfolk Trickster, sure. They have to be careful now, though. Their life total's pretty low. So I'm going to block the Mystic because I don't want the opponent able to unsummon it and use it as a counterspell if they draw Unsummon out of their deck, which is pretty common in these lists. That is too bad. I'll just go ahead and hold off then. Okay, the opponent no attacks this time. Yeah, the last few draw steps have been pretty cruel after we've fought so hard to stay in the game. We'll try for a Shaman. Okay, it resolved somehow. Oh, there goes our Assassin's Trophy. Decline. We do not need any more land. Thank you, though. Still holding one land as kind of a bluff to make the opponent think twice about charging in for lethal. And they are avoiding it. Okay, let's go for this. If the opponent drew another counterspell recently. This could be a big card to resolve. Well, seems really automatic for a counter, and the opponent took some time, but then went for it. And yep, they drew another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 counters this game? Fun interactive magic for sure. So will that be lethal? Well, we're at least going to try blocking all the things. Down to one. Perhaps the other Lotleth Giant off the top, or a Blood for Bones? There's only one way to know if this will work, friends. It doesn't really matter what we return to our hand. We got him. The opponent missed lethal. They could have attacked with the ambusher and killed me. They were too conservative, and we drew the perfect card and got him. If you hung in for that game, you must be feeling pretty justified right now if you hate that counter deck. Alright, before I go, I'm going to look at how I would craft the deck. If I were devoted to turning this into a competitive-ish kind of deck, what would I do to craft it? And this is, I think, where I land. So my crafting rules for upgrades on Golgari Swarm here and on my other decks are going to be that I'm only going to use Guilds, Allegiance, War of the Spark, and Core 2020. These sets rotate out in the fall at the time I'm recording this, which means if you craft them right now, you only get about 3 months of play with them. You can also tell because you'll get a warning message if you go to craft any of those cards that will say these cards will not be playable in Standard this fall. Are you sure you want to do this? And no, I am not sure I want to do that. Especially on a free-to-play account, I want to get more competitive as I go. I can't lose value on a rotation like that when you have to take care of your dollars. So I am not going to craft anything that's rotating this fall. And this is the way that I would play the deck going forward with that restraint. I would increase my Incubation Druids and my Paradise Druids. Now, I have 3 Incubation Druid here and 3 Paradise Druid. There's nothing wrong with going 4 Paradise Druid and 2 Incubation Druid, I think, to save a rare wild card. So that's a perfectly fine little adjustment that I can make right now. As you see, I don't even have the 4 Paradise Druids quite yet. Then to fill the graveyard, I've got Glowspore Shaman and Gorging Vulture. Those are going to be my cards that dump things into the yard. Stitcher's Supplier is rotating, which is a popular card for that strategy. Aside from that, I have the mana ramp creatures, I have the creatures dumping things in the yard, I have the 4 Blood for Bones, and then I have a toolbox of creatures to either cast or get back to help me deal with what the opponent does. Coal Harpooner takes on flyers, Midnight Reaper draws cards, provides card advantage against control decks or in like kind of face-offs between 2 creature decks. Bladecrafter and Thrashing Brontodon both have roles. This one can make the opponent sacrifice planeswalkers or large creatures, possibly with protection from a color like Boros Feather and God's Willing tends to do. Brontodon takes out enchantments and artifacts. Find Broker is just a good thing to get when you don't know what to get because it gets back multiple things over and over. I would go up to a second Cavalier of Night. This card impressed me all day. Definitely one of my favorite cards to play with in the deck right now. Cavalier of Thorns, dumping cards in the graveyard and hitting land, pretty sweet. Then Find, I'm going to keep that. Having the Sweeper in the deck with Finality feels nice. You could change it into a Massacre Girl if you wanted to craft one, but I don't see a huge advantage to Massacre Girl versus Find Finality, so I'll stick with Find Finality for now. Still, we have the Azoni, never got to make a million bugs. We got 2 Lotleth Giants, which you saw the power of that card. Molder Hulk was mainly in the set because of a certain card that is rotating out. Let me clear the filters and show you what I mean. But Molder Hulk's been a key card in the Golgari list because of this card. So Memorial to Folly is from Dominaria, and you can sacrifice it to get a creature back from the graveyard, and then you can get your Molder Hulk, and then your Molder Hulk brings back your Folly, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. Because it's rotating out, I'm not going to craft it, but it is only an uncommon. It can add a lot of power to your deck. If you craft the Molder Hulks, and you have a few months before rotation yet, you may want to craft Memorial to Folly. So without it, I'm going to play the Molder Hulk as a 3 of. Still, getting lands back and playing a 6/6 very cheap can be very important to the deck, and it is good value. The other thing that you could do is craft, let's keep it on land, let's go into Core Set 2020 not collected. You could craft a Cryptic Caves, and what you could do is bring that out of the graveyard, and if you have 6 or more lands, sacrifice it to draw lands again and again and again. So we could hide one of those in here. Take out one of our black sources, run a Cryptic Caves. Maybe you run 2 to make sure that you draw one. The Cryptic Caves would kind of suck when it can't cast a Glowspore Shaman, but at least it would give you some value in the mana base, something to do with that bring a land onto the battlefield ability, and I think that would be worth it. It's only an uncommon. Then I still have the Voracious Hydra because I love having the mana sink. It's good early, it's good to get back with Blood for Bones and reuse from the hand, and it's good to have a go over the top type of threat. So if I were to craft and upgrade the deck, this is the list I would play. Would you like to save and exit anyway? Cancel. All right, can I just revert my changes? No, it doesn't look like it. I'll have to reset it. Anyway, we'll get that fixed up again soon, back to the version I just played. I've really enjoyed playing the Golgari Swarm deck, and I hope that you've enjoyed watching this video showing you how I would tune that deck and what I would play in it with a free-to-play account. Golgari Swarm was definitely my favorite deck so far and felt like a true power upgrade to the other 5 monocolored decks, so I would recommend taking it out for a spin. Blood for Bones is a real treat. I would make sure that I had some of those in the deck if you've opened any at all with your core set packs. And I think I also got lucky with my mythics. Both the Cavaliers of Thorns and of Night really played a pretty big role for me today, and just cheesing out that Lotlet Giant win was it's one of the highlights of my day, that's for sure. Stay tuned for a poll on YouTube asking what deck you think I should play next, but in the meantime, you're welcome to leave in comments what deck you would like me to tune next, which of the 2-color decks is up. And I'd really like to know from you what you most want me to be working on right away. So leave me a comment. If you enjoy the free-to-play content, make sure you subscribe here to the Covert Go Free channel, and make sure you leave a like on the video and share it with your friends. Tell your friends about it who are getting into Magic Arena and are on a budget. It's your support that keeps the free-to-play videos coming. Thank you for watching this video. As always, I will see you in the next free-to-play video. Goodbye.